take on those melanocytes. They take on the melanosome, and see that right there? That used to be a little piece of that leg or that little arm. And then this cell took it in. Tell me how it did it. That's a big, huge piece of something that this cell just took in. How did it do it? It starts with an endocytosis. All right? An ATP-dependent process is what got these melanocytes inside of that cell. Notice where the melanocytes are oriented. They're oriented over that DNA molecule. It's a good place to put them. So all this melanin, all these little these black dots that are within these legs and arms, that are also within some of these cells that are alive in this deeper layer here. Why don't we see any melanin up here? Because these cells are what? Dead. Okay, we don't need to protect these cells. We're not going to protect something that's dead. We want to protect the cells that are alive. And so that's why these things just kind of stop in this area here, because these are the cells that are alive. They're getting keratinized, they're dying, let them die. We're not going to waste our time protecting them. Okay? So again, all of this melanin is going to absorb the UV rays so that as many of those UV rays penetrate the skin. Very important that occur. All right? How is the melanin produced? That's our next story here. So we know that the melanin is produced by these melanocytes. We know what the melanin does. How do the melanocytes produce the melanin? That's this. So we're going to simplify that picture a little bit. So we're going to draw a melanocyte. I'm not going to put the legs and the arms on it. We don't need to. But we're just going to draw one big, huge rectangle. That's going to be a melanocyte, and we'll label it. So that's a melanocyte. All right? Now, within this melanocyte is an amino acid called tyrosine. You need tyrosine to make melanin. And so there's 7 reactions that occur. We're only going to look at one of them. We don't care about the other 6. The very first reaction is the one that we are going to care about. That reaction would be tyrosine being converted into another molecule called dopamine. That's the very first reaction in creating and producing melanin. All right? An enzyme is needed. The enzyme's name is tyrosinase. Whenever you see ACE on the end of the word, you know it is an enzyme. Enzymes are proteins, right? Every enzyme in the body is protein. So this is a protein, tyrosinase. And that's going to catalyze the reaction, tyrosine into dopamine. Then 6 more reactions occur. We don't care what they are. Okay, so 6 more arrows, 6 more reactions. By the time it's all said and done, we just made melanin. So that's the production of melanin in a melanocyte. I want you to know again, the very first reaction, I want you to know the enzyme that catalyzes it, I want you to know the amino acid that is needed, and I want you to know that dopamine is what is yielded as a result of that first reaction. Now, when it comes to how much melanin somebody produces, that is, the activity of that enzyme right there is dictated by genetics. You're born with a certain skin color. You're born with a certain activity of melanocytes, and that will, at birth, dictate your skin color. So, when it comes to somebody who's really dark-skinned versus somebody who's very pale, they have the exact same number of melanocytes. Okay? I have the exact same number of melanocytes that everybody else in this room does. Everybody in this room has the same number of melanocytes. Everybody, I don't care what your skin color is. What's the difference? The activity of the melanocytes. How much melanin the melanocytes produce is going to genetically dictate what your skin color is. I want you to know that. So regardless of who you are, 10% of the cells in the stratum cell layer are melanocytes. End of story. All right? It's activity that does it. And again, that's genetics. Okay? However, we can speed up the production of melanin environmentally. How can we do that? UV rays. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to draw an arrow. And that arrow is going to be indicating UVA and UVB rays. What the hell? Let's put the sun here. Make the sun all happy. UVA and UVB. I'm going to start to tell you the difference between the two, mainly UVB. So, again, there's two ultraviolet rays that make it to the Earth's surface, UVA, UVB. The difference between the two is their wavelength. One of them is stronger than the other. Okay, I'll tell you what that is in just a second. What I want you to know for right now is that both UVA and UVB can catalyze melanin production, both of them, but it's mainly UVB, but again, both can. I want you to know that, okay? If you go into the sun, if you're dumb enough to go to a tanning bed, what happens to your skin? Doesn't it get darker? Why? Because it has to. Why is it that UVA and UVB are making you produce more melanin? Because you have to. If you're exposing yourself to too many UV rays, your skin will respond in a way to try to protect you more. So you'll produce more melanin. That's why you get darker when you get into the sun. Your body's trying to protect you, okay? Because you're now exposed to more UV rays. And again, it's mainly UVB, all right? I want you to know that, okay? So this picture right here is this picture. We just kind of simplified it. I know there's other melanins that I have here. Just melanin, end of story. That's all I need you to know. Melanin, all right? It's these words here. Or I don't know where, I don't think I have the words up here. They're somewhere in your nose, okay? So again, what's the big picture here? How does the skin protect you? Yes, sir?
What would happen if you had no melanin at all? How long would you last?
Not long at all. You would have a condition called albinism, and I'm going to talk about that now. Okay, you could not get in the sun much at all, or you're in great danger. Okay? So there are people, beautiful question, there are people who don't produce melanin. Why? Because they have a condition called albinism. Albinism is a genetic condition, you're born with it. You don't develop albinism. So if you're not an albino when you're born, you're not going to be one when you're 20. Okay? It is a genetic condition. What's the problem? The problem is that albinism is a condition where the person doesn't either make enough tyrosinase or they don't make any. So tyrosinase is what again? What's tyrosinase? That's the enzyme. So somebody with albinism has a problem with this enzyme right here. They have tyrosine. By the way, they have just as many melanocytes as you and me. So somebody with albinism will still have 10% of the cells within the stratified cell layer as melanocytes. That's not the problem. The problem is the activity of the melanocytes. And there are some forms of albinism that are severe, and there are some forms that are not so severe, that are fairly mild. So I have a couple of pictures here. That's a mild form of albinism. You can't really even tell that she has it. She's obviously fair complected, but it doesn't really look like there's really that big of a deal when it comes to her skin pigment. The person on the right has a severe case. If you look closely, you'll notice his eyes are red. If you have a severe case of albinism, you'll have red eyes. Your eyes are in large part due to melanin. Your hair color is melanin, your skin color is melanin, your eye color is melanin. All right? Just a quick picture of the difference between severe and mild cases. Okay? So that's one condition I would like you to know. It's genetic. You're born with it. All right? Activity of the melanocytes is the problem. Tyrosinase is the problem. Is tyrosinase a protein? Yes. Do we need to make it? What do we need to make protein? A recipe. What's the recipe called? A gene. So the gene for tyrosinase is no good. That's the problem with albinism. And again, you're born with it. That's different than vitiligo. Vitiligo is a condition where you can develop it at any time in your life. You can develop it when you're 3, 10, 23, 33, 63, 83. It doesn't matter. It's autoimmune. It has nothing to do with a genetic mutation. Autoimmune, I think I've mentioned autoimmune to you. Autoimmune is when your immune system just gets stupid. And it looks at tissue of your body like it's a virus or a bacterium, and it just eats it. The problem with vitiligo is the eating of melanocytes by your immune system. So somebody with vitiligo, in whatever area of this body is affected, won't have any melanocytes in that area. There are mild forms of it, and there are severe forms of it. I'll show you that as well. Yeah, we're good. mild and severe. So a mild form of vitiligo, and this could, by the way, happen overnight. So you might go to sleep one night. She could have gone to sleep one night, woke up, and all of a sudden has that quarter-sized patch that's completely void of pigmentation. And by the way, it's never coming back. So whatever area of your body that's affected by vitiligo, it's never coming back because melanocytes do not go through mitosis like stratified cells do. So once it's there, it's permanent. And so this particular person has a little area right here that the immune system decided, you know what, I'm going to eat these melanocytes right here. Looks like she has a little patch right there as well. That's completely void of pigment. Why? Because there's no melanocytes there. So that's a mild form of it. It could be kind of like a little streak on your forearm. It could be anywhere in your body. Then there are people where it's a little bit more widespread, like Mike here. Everybody made fun of Mike. Everybody said Mike's trying to be white. Mike bleached his skin. He actually did. The reason that he did that was to even out his skin. He had a severe form of vitiligo. He had lots of areas on his body where his immune system attacked his melanocytes, and it was just completely void of pigment. He didn't like the way it looked. He's got a lot of money. He can get the procedure paid for easily, and so what he did is that he evened out the color of his skin by more or less just bleaching it. Okay? So that was the severe form. Mike wasn't born like that. His immune system just, for whatever reason, decided to eat his melanocytes at some particular point in time. It was just more vast than what happened to her. Okay? Yes.
When he bleaches his skin, he changes the color back to white, right? So does that mean he has the melanocytes still active though underneath that? Or is the actual sweat?
The actual procedure of bleaching the skin, I'm not exactly sure how that works, but the melanocytes are still going to be there as far as I know. He might have to have the procedure done a number of times, over and over and over again, would be my guess as to how that procedure is done. Okay, but the actual mechanisms behind it, I'm not sure of. Yeah. As far as I know, it's all immune. By the way, you're fine. This is not life-threatening. Albinism is not life-threatening. Although, and you asked the question earlier, what happens to somebody who doesn't have any pigment in their skin? Do you think this person's going to be laid out in the sun? Do you think this person's going to go out in the sun at all? They would, or they can, but boy, do they have to be protected. They have to put their sun protection factor on. They have to be well covered. So somebody with albinism has to be well protected from the sun, and they have to do it themselves because their body's not doing it. If not, they're going to get burned very quickly. They're going to produce a ton of free radicals, and they're in trouble. Okay? Same thing with vitiligo. I mean, if you have these patches of hypopigmentation on your skin, you better cover those up very, very well, because these areas are going to be very vulnerable to UV rays, very vulnerable to free radical production, and that's going to cause some problems. Worst case scenario is what? What does too much sun give? It could potentially cause cancer, right? Melanoma being the worst of them. I'm going to talk a little bit about melanoma. It's affected me personally, melanoma. Okay, so I'll talk about that in just a second. All right? Are we good? I want you to know the difference between, yes. Good question. I would think that would probably be the case, yeah. I don't know for sure, but that, I mean, just thinking about it, that would make sense. Okay? So, too many UV rays, bad. Although we are going to talk a little bit later about why UV rays are good for you. Just not yet. We're still going to do the bad stuff. All right? So, we've concentrated on the epidermis so far. Let's go a little bit deeper and let's talk about the dermal layer. Let's talk about the dermis, which is composed mainly of connective tissue, as you know, like collagen fibers, a lot of elastin fibers. It gives your skin that strength, flexibility, doesn't let it wrinkle. That's what those fibers do, so we want to keep them as intact as we possibly can for as long as we possibly can. Loss or damage of the collagen and elastic fibers, that's what causes wrinkles. Now, what damages the